What's going on, YouTube? Levi of Old Iron Off-Road out here today. You've heard a bunch about this 4.3 liter that we've had undercover for a while. Today, we're going to drag this thing out. We're going to knock the crust off of it and really take a good look at what we actually have for a power plant for our Ultimate 800 rock crawler. Get this guy pressure washed off, get it cleaned up, get some fresh gaskets thrown at it, get the transmission, transfer case, engine all mated up, and we will be dangerously close to mocking our drivetrain up in the Ultimate 800. I'm super excited. I hope you are as well. So only 20% of people that watch these videos are subscribed. Make sure to take 2 seconds, click the subscribe button, hit the like button, and make sure to leave us a comment if you enjoy the content. Thank you. Oh man, it's almost like Christmas. Except I've owned this engine for forever. It's been sitting out here for about a year now, I think. Maybe longer. It may not even turn over anymore. Shabam! Bunch of spider webs, but otherwise, not too shabby. I can't remember what this came out of. I think it came out of like a 90s model pickup truck, and it supposedly only had 130,000 miles on it. Seems very low for a 1991 pickup, but entirely possible. So I think first order of business is to put a wrench on the crank and make sure this guy still turns over after being sitting out here for as long as it has. We'll have choices. Ooh. Yay! It didn't stick. So I believe we'll take some time and get some holes plugged up on this guy. Take a pressure washer to it, try to get it cleaned up, make it look like something. So I guess this is a good time to talk about plans for this engine. So obviously, we've got the 4.3, we've got the 4L80, we got the Dana 300 4-to-1. So I think this engine in stock form puts out about 180 force to the flywheel. So plans are to turbocharge this guy. Try to get it set up in a map range that allows for top end boost and somewhere around the 5 to 7 PSI range, and see if we can pull a little more sauce out of this guy on the top end if we need it. Basically, we're gonna make up for the lack of 2 cylinders with the turbo. Well, I'm glad I didn't just assume that it didn't have oil in it. A couple of things I wanted to mention before we got too deep into this is I'm trying real hard to make myself leave this engine alone. I'm thinking about putting a mild cam in it. One thing I don't think I said anything about though is this thing is definitely gonna get a turbo. We're gonna put a T3 on it, 5 pounds of boost, see if we can pull a little more power out of these things. From what I understand, the TBI engines, the intake and the heads flow like garbage. So what we lack in flow, we're gonna make up for in forced induction. So I'm gonna get this guy tore down and kind of get an idea of what we're looking at as far as condition of this engine overall. And I think if the engine's clean inside, then I'll probably go ahead and order a cam and lifters for it. And this is why we tear them down. I believe this guy's gonna get a timing set. So I'm gonna roll this thing over and we're gonna kind of check the cylinders and see how everything looks underneath. I'm a little unimpressed with the amount of carbon that's in the engine. I'm gonna roll it over and get a feel for what kind of condition the cylinders are in. Probably gonna go ahead and pull the heads off of it and just go ahead and strip it down to a short block. So let's keep going. See what kind of mess we got in the cylinders, if any. Hopefully none. Phew, water jackets were disgusting. Starting to think this engine was probably running hot. Lesson to all the peoples. If you have a junkyard engine, don't look in the junkyard engine. Just run the junkyard engine. Or if you see something, close your eyes, put it back together. Forget that you ever saw it. This engine's the worst lap out. I kept seeing stuff and kept trying to talk myself out of it. First, the amount of carbon in the top of this engine, it was pretty clear that it either has been ran hot or just lack of oil change, just lack of care, lack of maintenance, whatever. So got to here and the timing set is a war slap out, which that's no big deal on a small block. You throw a timing set on it and go on with your life. Cylinder wear. There's a solid 10 thousandths of wear in every cylinder. Then I dropped the oil pan and I could tell that the engine had been ran stupid hot. Like the inside lip of the oil pan gasket was burnt almost on fire, burnt. It was so hot. I mean, this engine turned over good, but I'm sure it was just being ran, had been ran hot for a significant amount of time. Then we get to this. So I pressure washed all the trash through the water jackets. I always do, just to try to clean them up. And this cylinder was full of water. And now it looks rusty, but that just wipes off. That's all dirt or rust and debris from pressure washing. This head gasket was blown so bad, just from pressure washing the water jacket, it was pushing water and rust and trash through the head gasket into the cylinder. So no, not gonna do it. So tomorrow we're gonna call Jasper and we're gonna order a long block, and we're not gonna talk any more about it. We're just gonna do it. I'm committed to the 4.3 for whatever reason. I've got a 5.3 sitting back there that I know ran, but I'm not gonna use it because I'm an idiot. I want all the monies for low horsepower. I don't know what's wrong with me. Actually, I'm committed to some other stuff on this engine. I've got some other parts that I've got $200 worth of accessory drive brackets and a bunch of other crap. So I think a boosted 4.3 would be cool. Anyway, long block coming soon. So with a new engine on the way, I guess I'm gonna have to figure out something to do to make the rest of this video. So I guess we'll work on that guy. I've actually got some plans in the works. The Scout is actually going over to my buddy's house tomorrow. He's going to bead roll some panels. We're going to make some patch panels, filler panels and whatnot. Engine should be here in 6 days, but in the meantime, I think we're going to throw some gears and the old Detroit in that guy. So let's make that happen. So we're armed with a Yukon Master install kit and a set of Yukon 513 gears. It's always a good idea on a fresh carrier and a fresh gear. Take a good flat file and run across it. Make sure you knock down any high spots. That's what we're after, boys and girls. Big old ring gear. We're gonna brake clean it off, get brake clean all these holes out. We're actually gonna brake clean our bolts off too, make sure there's no grease or oil on them. So when we bolt this guy on, we wanna make sure there's nothing that's gonna hinder the Loctite from doing its job. So what I'm doing is I'm just getting this ring gear centered up, and I'm actually going to take a torch and heat this ring gear up and then smack it down on the carrier with a hammer, and then we'll pull these bolts back out, we'll Loctite them in. But this way I know that all my bolt holes will line up. That way I don't get the gear on the carrier and then go, oh cool, and then my bolt holes line up, because that's never fun. That thing's a chunk. Try to move the flammable liquids away from the flame. You know, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I have actually caught this whole table on fire before, having brake cleaner on rags and whatnot. You don't have to get it super hot, just enough of a temperature increase to swell that ring gear up a little bit so it drops down on the carrier. Otherwise, you just gotta beat the crap out of it to get it on. A hot plate works really well. That's pretty hot. Just kidding. Just kidding, gotcha. Very nice, very nice. You got me down again. So not trying to turn this into a tool commercial, but this is one really cool feature of the newest Milwaukee mid-torque impact, is it's actually got a setting. It's got 1, 2, 3, and then it's got like a seat setting where it won't actually apply any serious torque. You just run a bolt down until it stops. It's super handy, especially for ring gears and stuff, so I can go back and torque all this and everything will be happy. So to figure out a way to get this guy held down so I can actually get a torque wrench on it. Well, I guess my vise was plenty big enough. I was worried for nothing. All right, ring gears torqued. So next we're gonna turn our attention to this guy. I'm actually gonna go ahead and knock these that are just sitting in there. I'm gonna go ahead and blow this housing out a little bit and get some of the trash out of it. But I'm gonna go ahead and knock these guys in, and then we'll be ready to get the pinion bearings on the pinion, get setup races and bearings out, and we'll be ready to start setting this guy up. So hopefully we've got this set up to where the standard Dana 60 interaxle shaft is gonna work. Because the shaft that we're going to use is going to be 1.5 inch diameter, 35 spline shaft. So ideally, Dana 60 interaxle seal will work, and hopefully our machine work was good. That's money. Cool. This front pinion bearing. Get this inner pinion bearing, go ahead and get it pressed together. Well, we're closer than we were. I believe I'm gonna call it a night, go and eat some dinner. We'll see you back here tomorrow. So, I assure you that you're still watching the same video and that this isn't an editing mistake. I know we're all over the place on this video, but I just locked my shop keys in the shop. Fine. Such is the way of things when things don't work out. You make adjustments and correct course and hammer on. So you can see trailer behind me, soon to be tow pig. That's a 98 12 valve. Cool truck. Anyway, got the trailer behind me, running over to my paint and metal guy's shop to grab the rockcrawler. He's actually been hammering out some patch panels for it. We're gonna go get it, bring it back to the shop, and then probably jump back on gearing this front axle. Ordered a bunch of parts. Ordered a 3-link kit from Artec last night and some other stuff from Rough Stuff. So it's getting serious. Give you a little preview of what we've got going on. We've got this panel here that he made up. couple of stiffening beads. Got this guy, little cap, and then we've got this big stupid hole here. So we've got that panel. It's been stepped around all this stuff. And then he made me some of these guys to stiffen up the front corners of the cab. Now, you can see this is pretty roached. I'm gonna cut that out and do something with it. But that guy sits over top of that. Just something to add some structural rigidity back into this guy. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure that I'm not just gonna clean the back sides of these really well and panel bond them in. I'm gonna cut out the worst of the rust first, but who knows, I may get stupid and decide to spend some time actually trying to make this thing nice. I don't know, I'm torn. What saith the YouTubes? Take my time and make it nice because rockcrawler. So for now, back to our semi-regularly scheduled program. Anyway, gears, axle, we're gonna make things happen. So first thing I'm gonna do is drop this carrier in and see how much of a stack I need for carrier preload. So it looks like about 60 thousandths on the carrier. That's how much the carrier moves side to side. Now we really don't know which side of the carrier those shims need to be on. So for now, we're just gonna split the stack kind of randomly. We'll divide it down the middle or we'll put it heavy on one side or the other. It really doesn't matter. It's just a starting place. And I've got these original shims that I pulled out, which were the pinion shim stack. We're gonna drop those in, get the pinion preload set, and then we'll drop the carrier back in, see where our backlash is at. Get our backlash adjusted, and then that'll give us a starting place to check our first gear tube battery. Some serious doing, but we've got our pinion preload within spec, and spec was 20 to 40, and we're just hanging on the edge of 30, a little under. So we talked about carrier shim stacks and what we needed there, and we said we needed 60 thousandths of carrier shims. So let's put a shim pack together, and I'm just gonna we're gonna grab a 30 and a 30, throw it on either side, and hope that we're winning. Believe we're gonna have to dig a little deeper. So let's see what kind of movement we still have in the carrier. We also need to keep in mind that we need 15 thousandths of preload. And it looks like we still have about 10 thousandths of movement in the carrier. So we've got 10 thousandths of movement and then another 15 thousandths for preload. That should put us in the ballpark. It's a little over, that's a 12, but we'll see what happens. And hopefully that's not too much. You always want to make sure that your bearing journal's inside of the housing and don't have a bunch of debris and stuff on them, because it will kind of prevent the carrier from seating all the way and give you a false backlash reading. Feels slightly more reasonable, and I'm aware I don't have the bearing caps on there yet because it is going to increase when I tighten them down, but I still would like to be in the ballpark before I put them on. Oh yeah, that's 11 thousandths right there. So we're going to throw our bearing caps on. Yeah, so that definitely sucked things down. I believe we're a lot now. Yeah, we're about 4 thousandths, 3 to 4, between 3 and 4. So I need to move the carrier away just a little bit. So I am actually going to pull, I don't have a 5 thousandths adjustment, which is about what I need. I'm going to pull 10 out and make change and get this guy put back in, and then we can run a gear tooth pattern. A 6 on the nose. Check it one more spot. We're just a little over 6 there, so we're gonna call that a win. So now we're gonna play Bob Ross, and we're gonna paint a happy gear pattern. Now, one trick, gear marking compound right out of the tube. If you paint that on there, you'll have a really hard time reading the pattern. Thin it down a little bit to the consistency of like shampoo, I think is a good reference, point of reference for viscosity. And what we're doing here, in case for some crazy reason you're watching this channel and don't know, which I suppose is possible, we are painting the face of the ring gear so that we can see how deep the pinion tooth is meshing into the ring gear. And you want to be right in the middle. You don't want to be too deep or too shallow. And this is going to tell me whether I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes of my life pulling stuff back apart to change pinion depth. And when you're checking this, I always like to put pressure on the ring gear, which you pretty much have to. You won't get a good read unless you put pressure on the ring gear. Pry bar works like a brake, and it works well. And we're close. I'll show you what we got. So hopefully you can see that we're marking a little high, but we're way outside of the gear. And then we're on the opposite side here. And with our backlash being close, that tells me that the pinion depth is a little shallow. Not a whole lot, but I mean, you can tell that we're not landing, that pattern's pretty high on that tooth still. There's a lot of root left. So we're gonna do the gear dance. We're gonna pull this guy out and we're gonna add probably, I'm gonna put 10 in it and then check and see where we're at. So you guys at home, go grab yourself a beverage and relax, and then we'll be back in just a minute. So I said I wasn't gonna be picky, but I got picky and ended up making 2 more pinion changes, ended up at 15 thousandths, bringing the pinion in 15 thousandths. Of course, I had to adjust the pinion preload and adjusted the backlash. The backlash at about 6 to 7 thousandths, and pretty happy with the gear tooth pattern. You can see that looks pretty good. It's nice and centered in the gear. And this is actually on the coast side. On a front axle, you're gonna be running on the coast side. So I think there's not much left to do except to pull this carrier out and knock some carrier bearings on it. I'm not gonna finish buttoning up the yoke just yet. I am gonna go ahead and put a seal in it and put the baffle in it, but we're waiting on a yoke. I need a 1350 yoke. We've got RTEC parts coming, I already mentioned. We've got the RTEC 3-link for the front. Our engine's supposed to be here Monday. So hopefully enough of this craziness, we can actually get serious about this. So I think that's probably all we've got for this video. I think we've rambled enough and been in too many different directions already. Hopefully it comes together something resembling a coherent video. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave us a comment below. We appreciate you taking the time at home to watch these videos. And as always, enjoy.